I feel so glad to be here recording and having you here for my fourth introduction to Rage Club. And my name is Nicole Hartley Bradford, for those of you who don't know that yet. And I do work I call Awakening the Village. And this is the work of my archetypal lineage. And I used skills and tools and distinctions and processes from a game world called Possibility Management, which was originated by a man called Clinton Callahan about 45 years ago. He was an experimenter. He wanted to learn and grow and evolve, and he has created possibility management as a game world where anyone can go to learn these skills and tools and distinctions, and to use them and to take them and to get rich sharing them. And I'm one of the people who has seen the treasures of the possibility management game world and has started to use them to great effect in my own life. And now I'm starting to share more widely after having already been a conscious feelings worker for, I joke, it's not really that much of a joke. I read my first book about conscious feelings when I was 8 years old, and I have been a really, really person ever since. I'm also the mother of four children, so they were the maybe unwitting guinea pigs in many of my conscious feelings work experiments. And I also am a member of several different communities, including Archetribe here in Alberta, where we practice conscious feelings more and more adeptly as the skills come to us. And I have recently fallen in love with my anger. And in a lot of the circles that I previously rolled in that were very spiritual and very yoga and meditation based, some of them were even slightly religious, I would say. This might come to such people as a bit of a surprise to find out that someone like me, who has been an initiate of Raja Kriya Yoga since 1996, is now in love with rage. And so this kind of leads me into this shift that I've been making and that I've been helping other people make and getting to watch other people make, from the what we call in possibility management the old map of the four feelings, anger being one of the four feelings, along with fear, sadness, and joy, to the new map of the four feelings. On the old map of the four feelings, all of the feelings, and you, if you're having them, are not okay. Even joy, because often when people see someone who's having a lot of joyful feelings, they're suspicious. They think, oh, maybe this person isn't very much in touch with reality. Maybe they're on drugs and maybe they're dangerous. Just like when they see someone who is having anger, they're scared of anger because it's destructive. It means you're a brute. It means you just care about power. It means that you're going to hurt somebody. Fear on the old map of feelings means that you're a coward. You can't be relied on to stand up. You're just not someone that people want to have around because you bring down the vibe. And sadness, there's bringing down the vibe some more with sadness. People, will have this idea that if you're sad, then you're kind of useless and also probably not going to be a good team member or a reliable family member, because how can you be counted on? So these are all the kinds of things that come with the old map of four feelings. On the new map of four feelings, the new map isn't entirely without the old map. The old map is part of the new map because this is a thought map. It's like the flat earth map. The world didn't change when we went to a spherical Earth map model. The world was the same, but it made more possible. And the flat Earth map is part of the spherical Earth map. If we look around outside our windows, it looks like the Earth is flat. It's very practical. There's a north, south, east, west still. And just like the old map of feelings, there's definitely, sometimes someone who is angry, it might be dangerous. Someone who's sad might not be able to be productive for while they're sad. But on the new map of feelings, this is just feelings, just are feelings. And we can use them consciously or unconsciously. And the unconscious part is the old map. On the new map of four feelings, when we're using our feelings consciously, we can use anger to create. We can use it to also destroy. And if we're doing that consciously, it need not hurt anybody. We can use our anger to say yes and to say no, or to say wait. We can use our anger to say, I want this or that, or this or that, for clarity. We can use our sadness to connect and to find out what matters to us. We can use our fear to pay attention, to make discernment and make distinctions, and to notice things in our spaces. And we can use our joy for celebration, for connection. And as we become experimenters about feelings and emotions, which are distinct in this work from each other, in that when I'm having a feeling, it's about the present, it's about the here and now. And I can use the information and the energy that my feelings bring to handle my life. I can also use emotions consciously, emotions being feelings from the past or from outside authorities that have somehow gotten into me. I might feel angry about something because the religion that I identify with says I should be, or the movement that I identify with says I should be. And so I can take on that emotional anger from an outside authority. I can use emotional energy responsibly to heal and to get the information that those feelings have in them or had in them, to inform again and energize, fuel how I handle my life. So in Rage Club, we're doing this in particular with anger. And in conscious feelings work, we start with anger because we've noticed that when we have our anger, when our anger is something that we're relating to and that we aren't numb to anymore. And this is where another distinction comes in about something we call the numbness bar. So it's possible to have like 1% of a feeling, 1% intensity anger, say. It's also possible to have 100% intensity anger. And again, on the old map of feelings, 100% intensity anger is a very, very scary, dangerous thing. But when this is conscious anger, 100% anger becomes rocket fuel for creating or taking a stand or other things in life. Most of us have our numbness bar set because of things that have happened in the past and the emotions that have kind of built up underneath that are all mixed together. We have a numbness bar usually at around 35 to higher percent, some a bit lower. This can make it look like your anger's gone from 0 to 60 in a moment, when what actually might have happened is that your anger went from 59% intensity, where it was still numb, to 60, where it's no longer numb, but it's full out at 60%. And then with that unconscious kind of things happening under the numbness bar, that can include unconscious voices that said suddenly at 60% come out of your mouth and maybe hurt people or wreck spaces, maybe break dishes, maybe break doors down, who knows? I mean, I'm sure some of you who has familiar stories that they could tell about when their anger popped over their numbness bar and started to wreck spaces. The other thing that can happen is that it can start to leak out sideways. You know, that anger, we're not conscious of it, we're not feeling it, it's numb, and it's leaking out sideways, maybe in comments or little behaviors or lack of behavior. And then our life takes a certain shape and form because we're not aware. We don't have our anger and our thoughts and our feelings that go along and mix in with them conscious. The game world of possibility management has its point of origin in radical responsibility. And how we define radical responsibility, how we define responsibility is that responsibility is conscious awareness in action. And we can't take responsibility when we don't have conscious awareness. And then we call that irresponsibility. So all of these things are tied together and they come together in our rage clubs where we take these distinctions and we experiment with them. So as a team, every rage club, the way I do it as a 4-week series, creates a team where in this safe and defined space that is defined with anger, with clarity, to create context, that we are working with a new map of feelings. Anger will not be shamed in this space. Your feelings will not be shamed. Your feelings are welcome as information and fuel for your life, for your destiny. And we create and practice using conscious anger in many, many different ways. And the Rage Club that will be starting next Tuesday is the third iteration, and already the richness and the amount, the volume of clarity and distinction that's come from the rage clubs that I've been doing over the last few months. Of course, they're all informed by the rage clubs that possibility managers have been doing for years, because this is all open source technology and sharing. So I'd like to give you a taste of an example of some of the experiments that might happen in a rage club space. Is everyone who wants to do that? Does anyone have any questions first about anything I've said or anything I haven't said? All right, great. Welcome, Siobhan.
Thank you.
So the first experiment I invite you to do with me is one where we use a low level of conscious anger to get into what we call in possibility management first position. And first position is just like first position in dance, in martial arts, in all kinds of game worlds, where it might be new to you. Even in the Raja Kriya yoga game world, we got into first position, but we didn't overtly or with awareness use anger to do that. So I will walk you through it. So please, if you'd like to close your eyes and just notice your body. Just notice where your body is touching the ground or your chair, your seat. Notice where your clothing is touching your body. Notice where the air around you is touching your skin. And then I'd like you to put your attention on the center of gravity in your body. For most female but embodied people, this is in your hips, in the center of your hip cradle. And for people who are born into male determined bodies, that would be higher up in your body, in your chest perhaps. And depending on you as an individual, will probably be somewhere between your chest and your hips. And this is something you can experiment with, noticing. Gather your energetic awareness and bring it all into a place just in front of you. Draw your energy from the past, your attention from the past into the here and now. You might have parts of your energy or awareness off in the future if you've been thinking about things that might happen in the future. Draw that back into this ball here in front of you. Your mind might recently have gone to people or places that are far away. You can bring that back now so that you've got this ball of energetic awareness in front of you. And then using your attention and your intention, put that ball of energy, that energetic center, onto your physical center. Notice what that feels like. And now, using a low percent of creative anger, put your attention on a grounding cord that connects your physical and energetic center to the core of the earth. Just notice it. And next, again, using some low level anger, notice and put your attention on a spherical bubble that surrounds your personal space. It's above you and below you, each side, in front and behind you. For most people, it's about a foot or a foot and a half out from the surface of their body in all directions. And again, using creative anger as intention and attention. You can make that bubble of space thicker or thinner. Notice what you like, what kind of thickness works for you. You can also make it go further away from your body or closer to your body. And again, you can use low level anger to choose where it will be. Next, I'm going to invite you to gently blink your eyes open without coming too quickly or much out of this internal awareness. And rather include the external in your awareness. A little bit like going from the flat earth map or the old map of feelings to this expanded map where you exist and you're aware of yourself, and then the outer world exists and you're aware of it too. Rather than it being an either or thing, because this is one of the sources of our kind of tricky areas we get into when we're too much aware of what's happening outside of ourselves and we lose awareness of what's happening with ourselves, and vice versa. So thank you for doing that experiment with me. And I invite you to do that in your lives You could even decide, using again a little bit of low level anger, you could decide to make a commitment to do that experiment 3 times a day for the next 3 months. And you could use a little bit of anger to set an alarm in your phone to remind you, or to make little signs to put up on your door and your wall, in your bathroom maybe, to remind you. And this is one of the ways that I hope that you'll be able to take, one of the things you'll be able to take from this introduction out into your worlds, whether or not you decide to come to the longer series of Rage Club. And I'd like to do another experiment with you here today, so that you can get a chance to have like a visceral, physical, 5-body experience of what it can be like to have conscious anger. And I've realized that for a lot of the people who have been coming to Rage Club and introductions to Rage Club, that it dawns on them that this is the first time they've had an experience of conscious rage, where it just hasn't kind of happened to them. That this is an experience where you're choosing to have your anger, to let yourself have it. And so I'd like to give you each just one quick minute to go and find a hand towel or another kind of piece of material. It could even be a sweatshirt or a pillow, a small pillow that you have somewhere in your space. And I'm gonna fold mine up so that it's a great size to fit in my hands. The first few times I did an introduction to Rage Club, I asked people beforehand to find a towel to bring. And then I realized that even not giving anyone the heads up about that, and instead sending people away to take just that quick amount of time it takes as a kind of demonstration of how easy it is to find a tool that you need, even when it's about having anger and rage. And sometimes, so the purpose of this experiment is actually going to be to give you the visceral experience of the rage that's in your body already. There's another part to it that we may or may not do that's about kind of having the rage that suddenly shows up. So having our rage consciously is a way of pushing our numbness bar down or lowering our numbness bar so that we can feel it when it's at these lower and lower levels. Another way of doing that is to, when we get anger, when it comes kind of to us spontaneously, is to set a container and then let ourselves feel it at as high a level as we can, so that we can kind of blow out our pipes and get our ability to, and our capacity back to have anger responsibly. So what we're going to do first is something we call towel rage. So if you have your towel in your hands, I invite you to just grip it kind of tightly and close your eyes. And as you grip it, feel what happens in your hands. And notice the anger that kind of comes alive in your hands as you grip and maybe twist the towel a little. And as you keep gripping and twisting, notice what happens as the anger travels into your arms and up your arms. And as you keep going, you might notice that it comes up into your shoulders. You might notice that you want to put your feet flat on the floor or push them into the floor when they are flat as your anger kind of travels through your skeleton and muscles and just engages. And you might feel it, you'll probably feel it coming into your ribs and your back, maybe into your neck. I see some people moving their heads, yeah, and into your jaw. And as it comes up to about 15 or 20%, it might want to make a sound. And I encourage you to go ahead, and if it wants to make a sound, go ahead and let it. It might sound a bit like a growl or a yell even. And it will be probably different for everyone. So do whatever your own anger has in you for it to do. You're doing great. Yeah, just let's do it for another few beats. And you can choose to turn it up even more. The rules are not to hurt yourself and not to hurt anyone else and not to hurt the space. All right, and now I'm going to count you down from 3, and when I say stop, just stop. 3, 2, 1, stop. Just let your towel drop. And just notice, keep noticing what's happening in your body. Notice the energy of the anger circulating. And there might be kind of wisps of information happening too. Wisps that would make it possible for you to finish the sentence, I feel angry because. And just notice. Notice if anything happens in your intellectual body that says, I feel angry because. And notice that anything that comes, notice that it points to, in a way, it points to what matters to you, points to what you care about. Thank you very much for doing that experiment with me. And feel free to open your eyes. Maybe shake out your hands. Yeah. Way to go. One of my favorite things to do with my anger is it's going to be what we'll experiment with next. Who here kind of when they realize it's time to clean the bathroom or clean their room or put on a load of laundry, who kind of gets like a wah? Nobody? Yeah. What about when it's someone else's mess? Yeah, yeah. So what is the feeling that you get when someone else has left a mess? Is it not anger? It, you know, for me it's been anger, pretty purely. So we can use anger to clean. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put on a 3-minute timer. Does 3 minutes sound like very many minutes? It's not really very many minutes, is it? I mean, 3 minutes is how long the commercial break used to be when I used to watch TV. So I'm going to put on a timer for 3 minutes. And I'm going to get you all to kind of like get ready. And for 3 minutes, use low-level anger, like maybe 10% anger. You get there? Kind of where you were before sound started coming out with the towel. And we're going to get up and go clean your space for 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go. One more minute. And stop. All right. Come on back. Right on. Was anyone surprised at how much you got done in 3 minutes? Yeah. Did anyone find something they'd lost? I did. I had my pocket belt on the end of my bed with a hat over it, and I hadn't seen it for a couple days. Awesome. So yeah, cleaning is a great use of anger, and a great anger becomes a really great resource for us when we want to get cleaning done, among other things. Part of that creative energy applied equals responsible action. Hey, awesome. So there are probably other things that you can think of that would be that you could probably do more if you consciously used your anger. One of them that I've been experimenting with is exercise. And we've heard of that, right? Like people get kind of riled up to do their like boxing or their weights, and I read recently about how important it is for heavy, like people lifting heavy weights, to make sounds so that they don't get hernias. So there's this physical part to it. Yeah, sounds like some of you have heard about that. So another experiment that I invite you to do, we won't do it now, but one that I've been having a lot of fun with, and especially now that it's warmer weather here in the northern hemisphere, and you kind of want to make up for some of the walking you didn't do, maybe because it was cold, even though a lot of us maybe did more walking because that's one of the few things we could go out and do, is to use anger when we go for a walk or a run. Do you know how when you're going with your body and you can get to that point where you're like, I want to stop, like enough. And there's this way that I've heard so often in the world of coaching and athletics, where they're like, push through, use your willpower. And for me, that's often occurred to me as a kind of like a mental energy thing. And I've it's never really worked for me. But what I find has been working has been to turn up my anger, to really like there's a dial and I can just be like, okay, I'm going to walk that extra bit and I'm going to turn it up and I'm going to like, and it's like it's coming from my bones rather than from my brain or my like adrenals or something. So there's another one that you can play with if you want to in the next little while, that you might again like to put an alarm on your phone about, or a sign at the door reminding you. You get the added benefit of growing some stamina, perhaps. Yeah. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is a demonstration of what we call, well, it's you know how when we did the towel rage, I was talking about how that gives you a low level kind of building visceral sensation of what it is to have your anger. This is going to be a demonstration that you can do anytime you want, of what it is to kind of start at the top, like just go for the high level. And this is an experiment that we do in Rage Club, and that a lot of people end up choosing to continue to do as an initiation process. And we call it 333. And in this 333 initiation, that I can send you a link to a website about, we practice 3 minutes of high intensity rage 3 times a week for 3 months. And the purpose of 333 is to do something with our anger that we call stellate it. And what this is when we can reach the capacity and ability to have our anger at 100%, what we've noticed, and this is why we call this an initiation, is that it grows ourselves up. And this is something I've been exploring for a long time. We talk about this thing, we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about emotional maturity also. And so many people, I think, and I observe, including myself, like, even though we've reached adulthood, we've passed 18 or 21 or whatever number we decided meant we're an adult, and there's still so many parts of us that are childlike, that are immature inside of us, lots of different parts, and especially in the emotional body, which makes so much sense to me, because if our emotions have been shamed and well, if our emotions have been trained by the old map of feelings, then of course we've made them small, we've hidden them, we've denied them, we've suppressed them, we've swallowed them, we've done all these things in our emotional body that mean our emotional body is maybe you could even use the word stunted. Maybe we could even use the word like not grown up. And this 333 initiation and all of the other kinds of like go for it levels of anger experiments that we do in conscious feelings work have this effect, it seems, of growing parts of ourselves up. So I'm going to do a demonstration of, it's only going to be 1 minute, but we do 3, of high level anger, and it will show you another way to use the towel. Usually we use 2 hand towels, one that we can twist and pull and another one that we can put in our mouths, because sometimes, who has ever not let themselves have a yell or say angry things all by yourself, even though it wouldn't hurt anyone, because the neighbors might hear or someone else from another room might hear, and you're just not going to do that? Yeah. So this is partly to show you how it can be, how effective it can be to use a towel as a buffer and still get to express the anger. And this isn't necessarily just cathartic. It is cathartic, and also when we're doing it consciously and intentionally and responsibly, it's also what we call in possibility management cathexis, which means that it has this transformational kind of edge to it. It's not just letting off steam and then going back to normal. It's actually changing something in ourselves. And that's why the 333 is an initiation that happens over an extended period of time. Another thing I'll say before I begin this is that I do have housemates. I have 3 housemates. One of them you might hear, she also does transformational conscious feelings work, and she is doing a process next door, so you might hear some of that. I also have a sign on my door, and this is something you might do in your own home if you want to get more into conscious anger work. My sign says, "Please do not disturb. Transformation happening. This may include loud noises, swear words, etc. I am not hurting myself and I'm not hurting anyone else. Thanks for caring. Ask me about it later if you want to." So that's another little tip you could use. All right, so here I am ready to show you 1 minute of the biggest anger I can muster here now today. 3, 2, 1. And some hints I have for you in case you decide to try that out yourselves is, again, like what I said after the towel rage, when the timer goes off, to just stop. And part of this is to grow our capacity to turn our anger off, which is very different from suppressing it or denying it or putting it under the numbness bar. And then to not blow it out, because often people have a tendency to be like, and what we found is that it's almost like it makes the energy and the information of our anger kind of blow away on the wind, rather than circulating it, keeping it in, and kind of breathing it up and down in the core of ourselves, where it can really do its magic. And what I think is happening when I, especially after 3 minutes instead of just 1, stop and take that minute to feel and integrate, I actually, it's like there's this knowing that I have that it's actually my nervous system is changing. Something new is happening in my nervous system. It wasn't possible before because I was numb, because I was stuffing my anger, denying it. So before we reach the top of the hour, I also want to talk a little bit about using conscious feelings for emotional healing. And this is something in Rage Club, we don't particularly go into fully, because emotional healing processes usually are best done like one-on-one, And they can take, they can take anywhere from about 10 or 15 minutes to 90 minutes typically. So we don't go into that in the space when there are multiple people. There are ways that these initiation experiences can happen with large number of people, but that's a very defined and set up space. But in the context of an emotional healing process, when a person has their anger, like I said, it's like having your skeleton, because then all the other feelings can happen. When we have our skeleton and we're grounded and present centered, and we have our bubble of space, it's like now we can be a crucible for all of the other transformational feelings to also happen. Something that often happens in those processes, and something that we do work with sometimes in Rage Club, is unmixing our feelings. Sometimes when feelings kind of are all tangled together, that's essentially one way that the numbness bar is created. If I have sadness and then I have fear, can you like imagine that there's this sadness and then there's this fear, and they kind of mix together and create like an isolating kind of depressive kind of state. And when we can use our anger consciously to kind of either power up and rip those apart, or to actually consciously take them apart. This is a big part of what makes it possible for the old traumas that are kind of in our body and are reinforcing our mental memetics to kind of reveal themselves, so that we can see and notice old decisions that we made that are subconscious, unconscious, that have been ruling our lives and creating patterns in our lives. That does anyone else here have patterns in their lives that they wish they could break? Yeah, these things that happen that kind of come around over and over, and you're like, oh my God, I thought I'd learned that one. This is how we can use this like emotional fuel and information to hone in and change our thoughtware, change what we think with. We've all tried changing our thoughts, right? Having different thoughts, but this changes what we think with. And when we change what we think with, new thoughts happen kind of more or less on their own. So I wanted you to know about that. I'm going to end the recorded part of this session now, and anyone who's listening who may or may not include people that you pass on the link to, I can post it in the event page or send it to you directly. It will go on my YouTube channel, can be shared with anyone you know, or you can also maybe in a few weeks or months watch it again and compare what happened while you were here this time with later watching, especially if you've been working with experiments in between, or if you would like to be refreshed and to remember experiments that you could try. And in the recording, I'll also post some links to the 333 initiation, and also to the Rage Club page, and probably also to the Conscious Anger page from Possibility Management. So if you're watching later, thank you very much. And I hope to see you in other spaces.